and hand over to Naomi for Watch Moths.
Yeah, hi, welcome to Watch Moths. And as you know, it's a double bill of mothy delights and energy spectacular. So I'm really looking forward to it and quite excited with what we're going to see and hear. Tonight we'll be celebrating the ecosystems of moths and the energy systems of the world and where those two collide. And we're interested in the way art meets science. So we're looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to the moths themselves. They're so fascinating, and we have over the last couple of years grown to love them. We're part of the Art and Energy Collective, all of us, and we work creatively and positively to face the climate emergency. We want to work with renewable energy. We're sharing creatively what we know about climate change. We're working with life on Earth and how it's all interconnected. So this year, different to last year in some ways, we are actually flying up to Glasgow. Well, no, the moths might be flying. We are making our way up to Glasgow for COP26. And COP26, meaning the Convention of Peoples, a United Nations conference with all the world leaders and a whole load of other people from far and wide, trying to come up with agreements to make the world a healthier place to live for all of us, creatures, plants, humans. So tonight we got this amazing group of moth experts and of energy experts and artists and community activists and educators. We've got quite a wide range of presenters for us tonight. And I'd like them to say hello and wave. I'm going to go through the list. There's John Walters here. He is somewhere in Devon and got some interesting things to show us later. Hello, John.
Hi, Naomi.
Hello, nice to see you. I haven't seen you since since our exchanging of caterpillars.
Oh right, yeah, a long time ago now. Yeah.
Yeah, nice to see you. Welcome to Watch.
Good to see you.
And we also have Laura Snapdragons, who's at a site in Plymouth.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
I'm here with John. Dave and Chris.
Yeah, nice to see you too, Mothers and Laura. Snapdragons is in Plymouth. It's a part of a park and it's a very exciting project, and we'll hear more about that later. And then we've got Richard Fox, who works for Butterfly Conservation and is in charge of recording and monitoring what's going on with the moth population in Britain.
Hi there. Yes, in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice to see you. Thanks, Richard, for coming along and helping out tonight. And we have Simon Bates, who was a regular last year, who's a natural historian and keen mother and in Exeter. Hello, Simon.
Hi, and good evening, everybody. I'm usually outside. I feel like a bit of a wimp tonight.
Maybe you are, but the weather has been atrocious on and off, and you will find some of our monthly watch moths people will be outdoors and in the sunshine, and occasionally when it's really bad you'll get more snippets of film and indoor stuff. So and then thanks, Simon. Is that everybody tonight, Jenny? Have I worked through? I don't want to miss it. There's Claire, but she's not quite here yet. No, okay.
And Chloe.
Oh, and we have Chloe as well. I mustn't forget Chloe. Chloe, can I say hello to you?
Hello, Naomi. Hi, Chloe. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good. And I'm enjoying the big moth behind you. Ta-da! Yes. So as we go through the evening, we'll be setting the scene for Moths to a Flame. It's, you know, it's now becoming quite a mature project, and it's a little bit like last year. It was in its cocoon and coming out as a caterpillar and eating things perhaps, and now it is beginning to decide whether it's going to turn into a moth or not. So as we go through the evening, we'll be setting the scene for this project, and each month that we have a Watch Moths, we will have this eclectic mix of moths, of art and of energy, and see how they're connected. And you can come into that story from wherever you might be interested, and you're sure to find something that you'll remember and reflect on over the month till the next one. So I think, although this month we're mostly down in Devon and in Plymouth, we are going to have a little sneak sort of talk with a person from Glasgow Community Energy tomorrow. But as the months go by, we will sort of gradually be working our way up north and dropping in on different communities as we go. So you'll get a view of moths from different places and really get an idea of what's living out there across the whole country. But I think maybe I've whittled on enough about introducing everybody and we need to go and have the general introduction to Moths to a Flame, and I'm handing over to Chloe to do that.
Hello. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This is just absolutely incredibly exciting for me. This is Moths to a Flame takes flight. We're off to Glasgow, and it's really, really going to be wonderful. So I'm going to show you a little video, first of all, which is our introductory video, which I hope you might find on our website and share with other people as well. But this is an introductory video that in a simple way tells you what the project's about.
Hello, I'm Chloe and I'm from the Art and Energy Collective. We're a group of artists, thinkers, makers, tinkerers who all collaborate to use our skills to respond to the climate emergency. And this year, we're working with our partners, Plymouth Energy Community, to make a massive mass participation art installation called Moths to a Flame for COP26. Now, COP26 is the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, and it's taking place in the UK this year at Glasgow in November. And we'd really like your help to build this really momentous installation that's going to be installed at Glasgow's Botanic Gardens. We're using the moth as an image to think about our relationship with our energy system, because as you may know, moths are attracted to light, as are humans. And we think that it's a good way of journeying into that conversation about energy. We are inviting you to explore the world of moths first. Have a look at the moths that live in the world around you. There are all sorts of resources online that can help you find out about the moths that you discover. Then we would really like you to help us make some moths. And it's very simple. Basically, it's just using a milk bottle, some scissors and a marker pen. Finally, we'd like you to visit our website to record your message, your whisper of hope for the future, something that you'd like to tell world leaders and encourage them to make the changes that they need to make to help us respond to the climate emergency. Now, you can do this on your own, or you can do this with your friends, or you can invite your local school or your local community group to get involved in helping us to build this installation. Thank you so much for your help.
So in recent times, I've been asked, where does the Moth to a Flame project come from? Why are you doing this? What's the relationship with moths and energy? And so I thought I would share today a little story about where the very beginning roots of the project came from. So Naomi, Jenny and I have been working with Plymouth Energy Community since 2018 and thinking about community energy and energy generation in local places because of all of the benefits that that has for biodiversity, for keeping money in local economies and for people where they live. And we were invited to participate in a festival, an illumination festival. I was standing in the bathroom, brushing my teeth in the evening, thinking about what sort of project could we make that could possibly speak to the concerns that we've got in an illumination festival. How can we engage people in conversations about energy in that sort of context? And as I was brushing, I noticed this moth throwing itself against the windows, battering itself on the glass as I was there in the light bathroom, and really felt to me in that moment that moths were knocking on the door. Having never really thought about moths, I suddenly saw in the moth a synonym between our own relationship with energy and the effects that it has on species that we live with, animals that we live with. And I also found myself thinking about COP26 and how this UN conference is going to happen in the UK. All of these bright, glowing world leaders are going to come and talk about our future. And we really want them to know that we care about it, that we want to speak up for our planet, that we want to speak up for each other, and we want to speak up for the future. And it was in that moment that the Moths to a Flame project began to tinker away at the edges of our thoughts. And Naomi and Jenny and I developed the idea. And we thought, we'll test it. We'll take this project to Plymouth for the Plymouth Illuminate Festival. We'll take, I don't know, 300 moths. There's going to be 3 days. We'll take 100 moths a day and see whether anyone is interested in joining us in talking about COP and thinking about how we're going to fly up and journey up there. Now, we were rather shocked because rather than 100 moths a day for 3 days, we landed up being using nearly all of the moths within 3 hours. People seem to be really interested in us taking their voice to COP and taking a totem that represented them to COP. And we thought we probably should be a little bit more ambitious with this project. We probably should find a way to open it up. And then, of course, COVID happened. And we thought, oh my goodness, how are we going to run workshops with people? And we were forced, really, to learn how to deliver projects online, to deliver workshops online that would allow people anywhere to join in. And so we designed the Watch Moths program and the Make a Moth videos and the Zoom sessions that you can all join in now and that are scheduled regularly. We designed those last year, and then we're really excited to run a crowdfunder with Plymouth Energy Community, and we're astonished at the number of people who wanted to support us to take this project up to Glasgow. So that's really exciting. We've got all sorts of things that are going to be happening this year. So Babcock decided to sponsor 20 schools participating in Plymouth, and the Exeter Electric Vehicles Consortium and Exeter Community Energy decided that they would like to support activities in Exeter. So we've got 20 activities happening in Exeter. Then the Arts Council decided that they would like to support it, and they're supporting 10 artists to work with community energy groups all across the UK, which means that there'll be in-person and online events all across the UK. And then last week we had a lovely conversation with Play Scotland, and they said that they would like to make the Moths to a Flame project their main creative focus for play activities in Scotland for COP. So we were really quite astonished and excited about the growth and the possibility of it. Now we've got a target of making 20,000 moths, and we're really excited because we've got 1,000 moths so far. So we've got quite a long way to go. So please do make moths and send them in. But today we announced our Golden Moth Awards, which are for people who have gone above and beyond in making moths and sending them in with their community groups or their school groups. And I'm just going to share some of the names of some of these brilliant people who've contributed to the 1,000 moths so far. So we have Tinmouth Renewable Art in the Recycled Art in the Landscape group, who've been working with schools all across Tinmouth. The Devon Guild of Craftsmen are going to be running events with schools and drop-in sessions at the Guild. At WI in the Black Country have decided to make hundreds of moths. There's scouting and guiding groups. There's a lovely group called Significant Seams that invites people to stitch moths, and they've made some beautiful darned and embroidered moths. And then we've got schools all over the place. And I'd like to say a particular hello and thank you to Anita Chamberlain, who is our first school beyond the UK. So the British school in Stavanger have made some incredibly beautiful moths that arrived in the post a few weeks ago. And then, of course, groups of friends and family. So, for example, here is a lovely box of 36 moths that we received from a group of people on Roseland Avenue who had a lovely get-together for the first time in months and made moths. So, I'm really excited that we're going to turn lots of people's whispers and lots of people's hopes for the future into a roar for change at COP26. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of our journey.
Okay, thank you, Chloe, for introducing us. And we're going to speedily go across to Richard, who can relax into this, into the mode of letting us know about the state of the British large moths. Is that how you describe them?
Yeah, larger moths, yes. So thanks very much. I'm going to share my screen and show a few slides just to make it a bit more visual than just looking at my pasty face the whole time. Hopefully you can see that. So yeah, so I live in Devon. I'm a keen amateur mother, and I've been involved in the Watch Moths project on and off last year. But my day job, when I'm not out at night looking at moths, is with Butterfly Conservation, a UK charity that champions butterflies and moths and seeks to conserve them. And we recently published this report, State of Britain's Larger Moths. So I was asked to say a few words about how moths are doing, basically, and particularly, obviously, given the focus of this project that Chloe's just outlined, a bit about what moths can tell us about the impacts of climate change on our wildlife, and particularly on our insect biodiversity. So just quickly then, there are two really important sources of data, sources of information that allow us to get, to really say a lot about how our larger moths are doing across the whole of Britain. There are very few places in the world that have this kind of information on any insect group. So it's really fantastic to have this sort of data on moths in Britain. The first sort of data is not the kind of thing you can really take part in. So this is a thing called the Rothenstead Insect Survey, and they have a network of traps that look like that, spread across the UK. They're automatic, they operate every night of the year, and all the moths are identified and counted. And because the traps are in the same place and they operate, all the traps are identical, they use the same bulb, they all switch on at dawn, they all switch on at dusk and switch off at dawn. It'd be rubbish if they did it the other way around, wouldn't it? It's very standardized. They're sampling the same place all the time. And that gives us really good information about abundance of moths, the numbers of moths, and how that's changing from year to year. The second really important source of data is the stuff that we can all take part in. So this is the National Moth Recording Scheme. This is people on this call and thousands of others who go out and they see moths in their gardens, on walks, in the countryside, in the daytime and at night, and they make a note of those sightings and they pass them on through their county recorder into the National Moth Recording Scheme. because people are recording moths in lots of different ways, that doesn't tell us much about the numbers, the absolute numbers of moths, but it tells us a lot about which parts of the UK different moth species occur and how that's changing over time. So there are these two, both fantastic sources of information, both with lots of volunteers putting time and effort into them, that give us different but complementary views of how our moths are doing. Now, I haven't got very long, so I'm going to try and race through a bit. So the bad news is that the total number of moths, larger moths, if you just add them all up, irrespective of the different species, has decreased significantly. We've lost a third of the total abundance of nighttime moths in Britain over the last 50 years. And when we split the data into the two halves of Britain, we find declines in both, but the declines are more severe in the southern half of Britain. And when we look at how individual species are doing over that 50-year period, we find that 4 times as many moth species have decreased in numbers than have increased. So it's a pretty bad set of results, pretty bad situation. Here's an example species, one of our really pretty moths that occurs all across Britain, from Devon and Cornwall up to Glasgow and beyond, the garden tiger. And that's really struggled over the last 50 years. We've lost 90% of our garden tigers, and they're also found in fewer places than they used to be. So they used to be much more widespread in the landscape than they are now. But it's not all bad news, and there are a minority of moths that are doing really well. And here's just one example, the dotted chestnut. It's a lovely springtime moth. I was really lucky to catch one, my first ever, in my garden earlier this year, before the weather really took a turn for the worse. And you can see, hopefully from the map there, that the purple dots, the dark dots, are where dotted chestnut used to occur before the year 2000. And it now occurs still in those purple places, but also in all those orangey yellow places as well. So it's a moth that's really doing well in Britain over the last 50 years or so. And actually, there are more moth species that are increasing their distribution than decreasing. So we've got that quite a difficult idea to get our heads around. So although it's definitely true that the total numbers of moths have gone down in Britain, actually quite a lot of species are spreading to parts of Britain, especially further north, where they didn't used to occur. So moths as indicators of climate change. There are both positive and negative impacts that we can see of climate change on moths in Britain. We've seen colonizations or recolonizations of moths into Devon in the last few years. These two species, Jersey mocha, was colonized from continental Europe into Devon, and Clifton nonpareils, a species that went extinct in Britain earlier during the 20th century, and has now recolonized from continental Europe and has spread into Devon in the last couple of years. We see species that are spreading north, like the beaded chestnut that I just showed, but another couple of examples here, the wonderfully named Devon Carpet, which used to be restricted to southwest England and now occurs right the way up to Scotland. It's done really, really well, spreading as a result of the warming climate. Jersey tiger is another speciality, used to be only found in Devon, in mainland Britain, and is now spreading rapidly in many parts of southern England. But there are lots of negatives as well, as we would expect. I mean, clearly the climate crisis is a major crisis, a major problem for humanity, never mind for our wildlife. And we clearly see a number of moth species, especially those that are adapted to cooler, damper conditions. So these tend to be species that have most of their British sort of strongholds in the uplands, in Scotland, in Wales, in northern England, but we also find on Dartmoor, on Exmoor, and in the cooler, damper parts of Devon. And these species are clearly retreating, almost certainly as a result of the warming climate. Right, that's my time up. So if you want to read the full report, it's much longer than that, and it's full of lovely colour photos. You can read it for free on the Butterfly Conservation website. thanks to all of you who submit moth records, because your data are in that report and in those analyses. And those are the people whose lovely photos I've used this evening.
Thank you. Thanks, thanks, Richard, for your presentation about that. And it's one of the reasons why we're looking at moths as indicator species for the state of the planet. And you express the complexity of that really well. But it's a serious issue, obviously, but there are winners and losers in it as the moths move across the country depending on the climate. So thank you. If anybody's got any questions about Richard's report, chat to him on the chat, ask him questions. And we are already running a little bit late, but we're relaxed about it because we're having a nice evening, and some of you might even have a glass of wine or a cup of tea there. And we will move on to Simon, who is not in his garden, but he has produced a little
Glass of wine.
You have got a glass of wine. Well done. I think I might have mine afterwards or something. Anyway, Simon, what have you got to talk to us about today?
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm in Exeter and I'm very much an amateur, but that derives from the word amour, apparently, a lover of a subject. So I am in love with moths. I don't know very much about them, but you know, we're all learning all the time. I've got a little, usually I'm in the garden, the moth trap is running out there, the one that I've made, and maybe at a future event I'll show you again how that's constructed because I made it myself. But I thought I'd give you a little whistle-stop tour of my garden, a little video I put together earlier on. So here we go. Yeah, so I'm in Exeter, bog standard end terrace property. And it's my wife really that puts most of the effort into the garden. So we've got quite a few shrubs. We've got a nice woodland on the doorstep, part of Mincing Lake Valley Park, now run by the Wildlife Trust, Devon Wildlife Trust. But we're really proud of this meadow. Now it's not looking so brilliant at the moment, but we've got this awkward slope in the front garden. And we've diversified this. You can see the buttercups. We've got lots of primroses, which look beautiful in April. And the buttercups at the moment waving in the wind. And also just this year, I have put in something called hairy buttercup from the Back from the Brink project. So this is one of the rare arable weeds, if you like. I'll say a bit more about those in a minute. But I think I've got a cutaway in a minute, which, oh yeah, yes. So this is, we've got fritillaries in this meadow as well, which we've sown in. And I think I've got an image of how they looked over Easter coming up. Hang on a minute for that. This is yellow rattle. So if you're growing a meadow, that's really, really useful because it's a parasite of grasses. So it thins out the grasses and lets the herbs, the flower-rich herbs, come through. So that's what the fritillaries look like at Easter, and they're really favoured by the bees. So still in the front garden, I've got this Rowan tree. Rowans are superb. They're the food plant for many, many different moths. And of course, they've got beautiful flowers, which are very attractive to pollinators. Many of which are moths, and then of course the berries follow on afterwards. We've got a bird box up there. Nothing's in there at the moment because there's the tree bumblebee been in there buzzing away. We've got goldfinches nesting in that shrub. So then we've got some nice lilac, which is just in flower at the moment, and that is the food plant, one of the food plants for the waved umber, which looks like this. And hopefully, I don't know, it's been a difficult start to the year, but we might catch one of those overnight to be able to show you in the morning. So now going into the back garden, which is where the trap is run, and various things. We've got quite a few clematis. This one's sort of looking beautiful at the moment, but struggling up the side of this this fence. And we've got some wild garlic as well. There's a couple of micro moths that feed on that, but I think they're found further north and they're quite rare. So Buddleia, of course, is a beautiful plant for butterflies and moths, including something called shuttle-shaped dart, and I'm hoping that we'll catch one of those overnight. Another thing that's really good is hazel. Hazel is a food plant for many moths, including the scalloped hazel. Be lucky to get one of those, but we might do. So if you can grow something like, you know, the native shrubs, then they're going to be really good for moths. So we've got some raspberry. There's something called a common pug, which feeds on that, but I've actually not found that in the garden yet. And did a little pond project, a tiny pond, which was a lockdown project last year. Always good for wildlife. There are some frogs in there. And then just finishing up with a few arable seeds that I've sown mid-April, which I've got from the Brink project, Colour in the Margins. So these are rare arable weeds. Well, they're now rare, so-called weeds. You know, they're brilliant, beautiful, often beautiful flowers. So I've got corn parsley, wild pansy, and this all germinated, weasel snout, many-seeded goosefoot. But the one I'm really pinning my hopes on is this one. It's night flowering catchfly. And there you go, you should see the seeds coming. And this is what it looks like, hopefully this summer. And it flowers at night and is very attractive, therefore, for moths. Indeed, it's pollinated by moths. And the seeds are eaten by that beastie, which is the campion moth. So there you go, whistle-stop tour of Shay Bates.
No, it was a great tour. Thank you very much, Simon, and such variety for all the different species that hopefully you'll show us tomorrow, and all those positive things you're doing for wildlife in your garden, introducing those weedy plants that are not weedy, are animals and insects' homes. So thank you. And I'm not going to chat to you because we're going to pick up time, but anybody asking Simon questions, put them in the chat. We love getting a little bit of that going on alongside our presentations. So see you in the morning, Simon, and maybe here later if we've got things to say, but we'll move on now to, it is Amy. Amy came and was a mother like Simon regularly last year, and is lucky enough, although you have to wrap up warm, don't you, Amy? You are sort of sheltered.
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone. I'm Amy, and yeah, I was involved with Watch Moths last year a fair bit. I'm here in my garden in Abbotscoe as well, not just down the road from Richard, actually. And here's my trap that I've set up. I love it how Richard and Simon describe themselves as amateur mothers, because if that is true, then I'm an amateur mother, because they know a hell of a lot more than I do. But I get a lot of pleasure out of moths. I get an awful lot out of gardening. I get an awful lot out of easy gardening, and I love the whole no mow May thing, because it's basically an abundance of weeds here at the moment. And you know, easy gardening, attracting more wildlife, that's what it's all about. And it's just I'm very happy to take part in that. So but what I mean, as much as I love catching moths with light, I also find that I learn a lot more about them if I can raise them. And also in the village here is our county moth recorder, Barry Henwood, who was involved with the project last year as well. We may see him at some point, we may not, I'm not sure yet, but he's my kind of moth dealer, really. So he'll catch moths, and sometimes they'll lay eggs, and sometimes we raise the eggs to caterpillars and then obviously onto moths. So I've got a little treat here for you all. I'm going to turn my camera around if I can. 1 second. I've got some things to show you. This is my moth tower at the moment, and I'm going to show you. Richard was in his presentation was talking about the garden tiger moth, and this is a garden tiger moth caterpillar, which Barry let me have, and it's been doing some growing and lots of eating. Is that a good focus? Can you guys see it?
We can see
Also
it's
also called a woolly bear. I mean, he's
yeah, it looks like
really,
a woolly bear, Amy. Yeah.
yeah, really, really furry. And I've been feeding him dock leaves, and he's just been a delight to sort of watch grow. And at some point he'll spin a sort of silken web, and he will then hopefully emerge later in the season as one of those beautiful moths, which I've got, I'll remind you of the picture of there, one of those.
Yeah, lovely.
And also in here from caterpillars that we raised last summer are the cocoons of several different moths. You can see that the big cocoons here are, I mean, they're really whopping compared to some of these smaller ones here. And they are in sort of size order, but buff ermine that we've got coming, these lovely ones, which I raised from eggs. We've got these here called light brocade. They'll come out, little brown jobs, I also call them. And then in size order, at some point we'll have an elephant hawk moth, I hope, emerge from that. And our largest moth, the privet hawk moth, which is an absolute beast. And you can I'm just flicking to the picture here to see it on someone's hand. You can see how enormous they are. And we definitely caught some of those last year. And surprise, surprise, I've completely forgotten, but also poplar hawk moths, because very obligingly this evening, one emerged, and there it is, poplar hawk moth. And so it would have come out that cocoon, climbed up the stick, filled out its wings, and at some point, very soon, I expect it to start sort of shivering, and then it will take off and hopefully go and find a mate somewhere not far from my garden. So there we go, really. I thought you might like to see those. And
we do. It's great.
Yeah.
Amy.
And we'll hopefully catch some tonight and show you more in the morning.
Yeah, I want to just quickly ask more about that poplar moth then. So I'm presuming it's called that because it likes poplars, but does its caterpillars eat other woody plants, or does it?
John, Richard, Simon, would you like to? I can look it up, but I can't remember.
Willows and poplars, yeah, mainly willow and poplar.
Oh right, yeah. I was just sort of, I mean, it's amazing. It's an absolutely amazing moth. I don't think I've seen one before, and I just wondered where.
And do you see the way that its wings are kind of like scrunched up leaves? I mean, it's just wonderful camouflage. They are beautiful, beautiful moths, and they come in two shades. You can get like blue or pink. I think there's a more technical term for it than that, but yeah.
No. Well, thank you for showing us your caterpillars and carefully treasured cocoons. And
pleasure.
And the actual moths that had come out of them. So I think it was John last year that really reminded me how 3/4 of the life of a moth is spent as a caterpillar, chewing away at its food, needing all that energy to survive in order to turn into a moth. But I think they're sort of invisible enough, but the caterpillars are very rarely seen, aren't they? So thank you, Amy. And we're now going to whiz over to Laura in Snapdragons with Dave and Chris, who are the mothers that have come to visit it and see what moths are about. But Laura, hello.
Good evening, everybody. We are here, hiding under a tree in case of the rain. I'll just come out into the light a little bit so I can tell you a bit more about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Snapdragons Plymouth is based in Victoria Park near the city centre, and we are transforming a former bowling pavilion and green, trying to create a community hub that brings community together through nature. I'll turn the screen around so you can see a bit more about where I am. So we're nestled underneath the Moor artwork by Richard Deacon. We're quite close to Plymouth train station, if any of you have been here. Those are the two buildings, and then you can see that I'm just around the outskirts of the bowling green. We've got quite a lot of green space. we had soil contamination on the site. So we've had to bring in 1,000 tons of topsoil to deal with the contamination.
Yeah.
It's been quite a journey.
Mm.
So at the moment, we have quite a blank canvas, lots and lots of soil, lots of growth this spring, which has been really lovely. And we're hoping that with everything we're going to do here, we're really going to improve the biodiversity of the site. Home to a Steiner-inspired kindergarten, forest school, Plymouth Red tent for local women, Green Man Circle for local men, a woodcraft folk branch, community allotment and garden, orchard, composting project, workshops, seasonal celebrations, you know, lots and lots of different things for people of all ages and backgrounds. And yeah, just hoping to inspire a love of our local surroundings, get people looking after it, working with it, and doing what we can to encourage wildlife to the area. There's an awful lot here already, even in its current state, and we just hope to really improve that. You know, we're going to try and put a pond in this section, plant lots and lots of trees. We've got 500 saplings from the Woodland Trust that are going to go into our hedgerow. Yeah, and you can just see Dave and Chris there. So Chris has a moth trap just down there in amongst the western red cedars and next to a very large bay tree. And then Dave's moth trap is here under a Persian ironwood. So I will I'll stop talking and I'll let Dave do his thing. So I can hold it if you like, Dave.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Naomi. I've set up my battery-operated trap in the shelter of this tree because the weather conditions are not very good for catching moths. As you'll know, it's been so wet and windy recently. We'll be on all night, and I'll stay here. And Chris with his trap as well. We'll watch the moths come in. Ones that don't actually go into the trap, we'll rescue in case they get too wet. Put them in pots, ready to show people the next day. Finish off with right. This is a female emperor moth who hatched out from her cocoon this afternoon.
Oh.
I'll be able to let her go tomorrow. Last year, a female emperor moth, her mother, came into one of my traps and laid some eggs on the egg boxes inside the trap.
Oh.
So I then let her go so she could lay more eggs outside in the wild, and reared the caterpillars through last summer, and she spent all winter in a cocoon and out today. And she's one of our biggest moths, our only member of the silk moth family. Lovely to see the lovely blue eye spots.
Yeah, she's a beauty, Dave.
Yeah.
And I've never seen one. I mean, I'm sure some of the audience have maybe, but yeah. they are incredible when you get up close to them.
The females sit around in the vegetation when they're hatched, so they're not very obvious. But the females do fly at night and sometimes come to light traps. The males fly by day, and their object in life is to find a female.
Mm.
The female sets out a special scent which the males can track down from a long way away downwind, and they buzz around madly, homing in on the scent, trying to find the female.
Mm.
Okay, I'll finish there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you, and thank you, Laura, for showing us your beautiful, developing, rewilding, biodiversity increasing site at the end of Victoria Park. And if anybody's got questions for Laura or want to express anything about the site or interest of the site, please put it in chat. Are there any questions you want to ask, Laura? And we'll before we move on.
I don't think so, not from us, but just thank you for giving us the chance to take part in this. And it's really nice to meet up with local mothers and learn more about what's going on with moths. So thank you.
But from our point of view, it's really, we're hoping to have community groups and community endeavours like you that are actually making your local environment a better place to live and more sustainable and using energy more wisely, as it were. You know, we want to show our followers and an audience part of the project. We want that to be part of our Moths to a Flame project. So thank you. Thank you. Now our partners are Plymouth Energy Community, and usually there's a representative here, but I think today, is it true, Jenny, that Claire's not here still?
Yeah, she's not able to join us this evening, so I think we could probably move on to John. And but thoroughly recommend checking out the Plymouth Energy Community website and finding out more about your local community energy groups.
Yeah. Well, and each month we will be bringing the whole story back to the relationship with our energy system and the climate emergency, and Plymouth Energy Community, who are our partners in this, will sort of join in with that, and alongside other community energy groups across the country. So so John, hello.
Yes. Hello. Hello again.
Hello again. And you've provided us with a couple of little films, one relating to the moths for tomorrow, and the other is the other one for now.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'll just start off. I'll just angle my camera down a bit here. If you come and look in my office at the moment, you'll find that my desk is absolutely covered in bits of wood.
All right, why is
Big
that?
piles of wood. And if you remember, I showed you the puss moth caterpillars last year.
Yes, I'm
rearing. And when they were ready to pupate, I put them on, each one onto a separate bit of wood, and it spun its cocoon. I've kept them all over the winter. And now this week is the exciting time when they hatch. And in a way, it's been good that it's been raining, because I've actually been able to see them emerge, because I'm usually out and about working. But the rain has meant I've been stuck indoors, but it's ideal timing for me, so I'm not that worried. And I've managed to not only see, I managed to get some video, which I'll show you in a minute, of these beautiful puss moths. So I'll just show you one.
Oh yeah.
Just there. Quite a big moth, and you'll see it in the video in a minute. Great big fluffy moth, as its name suggests. But the amazing thing, I don't know if I showed you last year, the amazing thing, the caterpillars are fantastic, but they actually make wooden cocoons. When they come to pupate, they climb up a tree, chew the bark, and then they add silk to the bark, and they make themselves a tough wooden cocoon, which just looks like a bit of bark. And then you think, well, how does the moth get out of that? And this little video shows you how the moths emerge, and this was just this afternoon.
Wow.
So what the moth does, it releases a chemical which dissolves the silk, and if you can see there, it's part of its pupa case is just to the right of its face there, and that has a little ridge on it, and that helps cut through the silk. It only makes a tiny hole in the cocoon, just enough to squeeze itself out. And this is the moth. This is about 4 o'clock this afternoon. I had them on my desk so I can see, I can hear it, or just see one when it's about to hatch, and I can nip in and get a little bit of video out in the conservatory. I've got my camera set up there. So I saw 4 emerge this afternoon. You can see the moth's tongue there, just below its eyes there. And it won't actually feed, and it'll only live for a week or so as an adult moth. So this moth doesn't feed, but it does have a little vestigial tongue. And this is what it spits out, this liquid which dissolves the silk. You can see it's a very furry moth, as you see. Wings are tiny little stubs at this stage. And it's a big fat body there. It's amazing how it just squeezes its way out of that cocoon, that tough wooden cocoon. And then it climbs up onto a stick. And this is a little time lapse. And this takes about a quarter of an hour, only a very short time really, to expand the wings. So it will just pump them up. It actually pumps fluid into the veins of the wings. And then amazing how watching them, you never really tire of watching this. The wings actually expanding, and then suddenly it flicks them back and then expands the tips. They just uncurl beautifully. So from that sort of fairly ungainly looking creature turns into a beautiful, elegant wings, and it will sit there for about 20 minutes or so, and then it will close its wings up. as you see here. Close them up, and then that's about 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, and then it'll be ready to fly this evening.
Oh, that was absolutely amazing, John.
So it was worth putting all that effort into rearing the caterpillars, because I'd seen this about 10-15 years ago, and when I was a kid as well, I remember rearing them, and I really wanted to see it again. So I've managed to be lucky. I've got about 20 more, so hopefully I'll see it again. And
will you take more films as well?
Yeah, I think I'll go out tomorrow in the afternoon because it's meant to be sunny, but I think it's raining again on Sunday, so I expect some more will hatch. They'll probably all hatch in the next sort of few days now. But I've seen the exciting stuff myself, so I'm quite happy that if I miss all the rest, it's not such a problem. But I'll try and see a few more if I can.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks so
much. The other videos are on my Twitter feed. If you look on there, there's some different ones on there.
Yeah. Could you put your Twitter feed on the chat for people?
Yeah, I will. It's
because the other thing that's amazing about all these different moths is just how highly evolved they are for their minute place in the world, if you like. There's just that's another thing that impresses me. Not only are they furry and cuddly and fantastic, they just, each one has its antennae or way of being, or the spit that dissolves its cocoon just uniquely for it, which I suppose is one of many reasons, but why they're so susceptible to quick changes in the environment, because they're designed for their place, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're endlessly fascinating. Yeah, I mean, they've been around a long time, sort of a few million years. They're around way before the dinosaurs were knocking about. These things have been here a very long time, so they've had time to evolve all these amazing, intricate bits of behaviour to keep themselves alive.
Well, I'd quite like to just dwell on that for a moment as well. That the fact that they've been around for millions of years and they've seen. They've seen big changes in that compared to the human lifetime.
We've been around just a fraction of the time. Some of these insects have been around for 160 million years. Some of the beetles, for instance, they've lived through days when giant asteroids hit the planet and stuff like that. But they keep going, don't they? Just goes to show these things. The things they've been through. We lived in a tiny little fraction just at the end of that time.
Yeah. And we have such a big impact, aren't we? Right, yeah. But we're Moths to a Flame is as I've said at the beginning, is a positive and hopeful project where our whispers of hope are joining others and making a big enough whisper, we hope, to be heard by others and people up in Glasgow. So with your help, John, that I'm hoping everybody will reflect on the puss moth and what that means. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much then, and we'll see all our presenters in the morning with the moths that they've found and more stories from other people that haven't been here this evening. And I'll hand over back to Jenny, and you're muted.
I'm muted. I'm sitting here in my studio with some beautiful milk bottle moths which have been made for us by school children from Shakespeare Primary in Plymouth. I'm just going to do a quick share screen and show you. So as Naomi says, we'd love to see you again in the morning from 8 till 9 a.m. To see what moths we find in the chat. It's the same link to join again tomorrow. So this is our website, mothstoaflame.art, and it's got all sorts of different ways to get involved with the project, including that video that Chloe showed at the beginning. So if you've got anybody else you think would be interested in the project, please encourage them to visit mothstoaflame.art. They can watch that video. There's then lots of information about why we're using moths as our metaphor for energy, Our longer term plans, though, as Chloe was saying, it's evolving at speed. So some of the things we've told you about this evening won't quite be on there yet, which is really exciting. You're obviously at Watch Moths, but there are other events free to join in with, making events, poetry events, all sorts going on. So please do come back again and join us again for future events. We've got news, all sorts going on. And then down at the bottom here, we've got the address to send your moths to, if you're able to make your milk bottle moths, and a donate button. We do have funding for the majority of the project, but the more funding we're able to access, the more people we're able to reach, the more moths we're able to make, the louder that whisper, those whispers become and turn into the roar for change. And then just to finish off, absolutely last thing, this button here takes you through to a page to share your message. And as Chloe and Naomi have both said, we've got this audio side of the project as well, with many voices. So the installation at the end will be made up of 20,000 milk bottle moths and also an audio installation to be able to walk through and explore. So I'm just going to share, just to finish off, a very short video about how to, one way to record your whisper of hope to add to the installation. We'd love it if overnight this evening and tomorrow morning you could start thinking maybe about what your whisper of hope could be. Chloe will explain in the video in a moment that it can be really quite varied, and whether you'd like to record it through the app on the website, or you can pop it into the chat in the morning, or you can email it to us or fill it out on the form on the website. Here we go. Helps if we've got sound on.
As part of the Moths to a Flame project, we're hoping to record around 10,000 messages for COP26. And you might be wondering, how do I do that? So here are some instructions. First, you need to go to the mothstoaflame.art website. And then you need to click on the button that says share your message. That will take you to a page that will give you some prompts to help you think about what sort of message you'd like to record. When you're ready to record your message, then you just hit on the record your message button. And that will take you to an app and you can start recording. I hope for a cleaner, greener, healthier, more fair future where everyone can feel more creative in responding to regenerating the planet. You can press play to listen to it again. I hope for a cleaner, greener, healthier, more fair future where everyone can feel more creative in responding to regenerating the planet. You can either record it again, or you can fill in your name and email address and hit send. Now, if you're more poetic than me, you might want to participate in our poetry competition. And on the Wondering What to Say page, you can see details of how to get involved. And the deadline for that poetry competition is the 2nd of July, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd love to be able to take your message of hope or your call for action up to COP26 to world leaders, people in power, decision makers. Please do share your message with us, and we'll see you in the morning. Please remember that you don't have to turn your camera on in the morning, so if you're snuggled up in bed with a cup of tea, you can still come and join us. We'll only be jealous, really.
Yeah, and the mothers aren't allowed to be in bed with a cup of tea. They have to be out with their So good night, everybody, and I hope you all sleep well, and we'll see you in the morning, 8 o'clock. Thank you. Thanks for
Bye. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Take care.
See you tomorrow.
Sleep well.
Bye.